There he is, in fact. Please welcome Mayor Fred Keeley.
Well, thank you and good evening. Those of you who are not residents of Santa Cruz or the general area, welcome. So happy to have you in our community. For those of you that are Santa Cruz folks, thank you also for being here. A couple of thoughts. As I was getting ready to come over this evening, two things were happening simultaneously on television. One was the launch of Artemis II and why not? And that, it seems to me, was a moment of hope, of excitement, of the power of imagination, the power of dreams, the power of people working together on a compound, complex set of issues and seeing it happen. On the other side of my television screen was the President of the United States trying to explain what is going on in Iran and our participation in that. I was not as excited about that speech as I was watching the launch of Artemis II. But what it did do was it helped me get grounded for this evening in the following regard. You folks are entrepreneurs for the most part. There are some folks from the university who then have also a connection to entrepreneurial activities. But by and large, you are entrepreneurs. You are risk takers. Now, when you do that, when you decide we're going to take a risk, we are going to locate someplace, we are going to invest some capital, we are going to hire some people, we are going to locate in this community, we hope that our business is successful. You don't just look at those issues. You also say, what kind of community is this that I'm going to be setting down roots? Is it a safe community? Is it an affordable community? Is it a community that is going to wrap its arms around us and what our hopes and dreams and aspirations are? So what I thought I might do for a very few minutes, because Doug has given me a few minutes, so I will try to keep it within a few minutes. Those of you who have heard me speak will know this is a challenge. But let's talk about these issues. First and foremost, the primary function of all governments, city government, county government, special districts, the state government, which I have served in with your forbearance, and national government, our primary purpose is to keep the community safe. That is it. Now, there are manifest ways that that happens. The most obvious is police and fire. And that's what we spend most of our general fund on, is police and fire. That's what comes to your mind, that's what comes to my mind. And the good news is, in that regard, our statistics on the major crime categories are going down. Our police department has more full-time personnel than we've had in years. A lot of good things are happening in that regard. Our fire department is excellent. We're buying new equipment, so on and so on. All those things that you think about, yeah, you would look at that and say, yeah, the public safety, that's pretty good. But there's a lot of other things that go into public safety. The Parks Department is actually involved in public safety. The Public Works Department is involved in public safety. All of our departments somehow are involved in public safety. Our water department, when you turn on the tap, you don't want to think about it. Is that water safe? You don't want to think about that. You want to know that it is. And that runs all the way through city government. But keeping the community safe in all of these regards, although it is the primary activity, is not the only activity. We have to deal with other challenges. I am the first directly elected four-year mayor in the city. Folks changed the charter a few years ago to go from 7 at-large council members, and one of them would be the mayor for a year at a time, to 6 council districts and a directly elected four-year mayor. And the good news for you is that the Keeley reign of terror is almost over. It'll be over in 8 months. But during that period of time, when we look at what are the challenges in our city, when I ran, more than 90% of the people, when I knocked on their door and said, "Hi, my name's Fred, I'd love to be your mayor, what's on your mind?" Instantaneously, two things came to the top of the list: housing and homelessness. Top two issues. You had to step off a cliff to get to number 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, somebody might be concerned about a park issue here or whatever. But top of mind, housing and homelessness. That's also where the agreement ended. When some people said housing, they meant it's too expensive, but I don't like all these new buildings. Or I want more housing so my child doesn't have to leave this community in order to be able to buy a home. Okay? People had a wide variety of drill down, tell me what you mean by that. Same thing on homelessness. You're not doing enough. There's too many homeless people. You're not doing enough. You need to be more compassionate. We need to get more people off the street through this. The other side of that coin is you're doing too much and it draws people here. It's a magnet. So again, housing and homelessness, agreement, they're top of mind. What isn't an agreement is what to do about those things. Now the good news is that the voters of this community in November, a few months ago, passed a measure which invests $120 million in housing affordability. Let me tell you what that means, what that's about. You see these buildings going up, which is state. I used to be a state legislator, but the state started in 2017 to say every city and every county in California is going to build a lot more housing. And they took what was essentially a broad jurisdiction for local land use that used to belong to cities and counties and took most of it away, and it now resides in Sacramento. But we have the obligation to build housing and to permit it to take place and to focus it where it makes sense. So what are we doing to create that environment for you so that when you want to make an investment, you can tell your employees, you know, this used to be one of the least expensive, least affordable communities in the state of California. We are becoming more affordable by the day because we are making investments not only in new housing, 20% of which has to be affordable, but we now have a chunk of money over the next several years that the voters are kind enough to say we're in on this, to get the affordability to be deeper and more of it. The state law says 20% of it has to be affordable. That's not enough. That means 80% of it, shall we say, is either market rate or some people would say unaffordable. So is that enough? Is that going to bend the curve? What we know for sure is you can't grow your way to affordability. You can, however, invest your way to affordability. So what we are going to be doing, and we're starting, it's already underway, is investing in those developments as a very limited partner to say, if the law says you have to build 20% affordable, how about 25 and we'll come in and be your partner on the 5? Or you are going to do moderate and low, we'll come in and be your partner to make those units very low and extremely low income. A couple of different ways to increase the affordable stock in the city of Santa Cruz. So when businesses are saying, boy, I've heard terrible things about this and it's terribly expensive, who am I going to get to recruit to work in my business? We're starting to create an answer to that question. This isn't going to happen overnight, but it's more than just a gesture or a head nod. Similarly on homelessness, that same measure said the following. As folks, because this is true, we have reduced street homelessness in the city of Santa Cruz by 51% in 4 years, and all of that has been by meeting people where they are repeatedly, and when they're ready, helping them move from the street to shelter to permanent supportive housing. That's been a wonderful success. It's been a wonderful success, and our partners in county government get a lot of credit for that, a lot of credit for that. But we do as well as the city. But If what you're doing is you're building affordable housing, you're doing some things here, you're doing some things there, you're moving people off the street, if other people are falling into homelessness, then net, are you making any real progress? So what we thought was, one of the ways to deal with that side, if you will, the incoming side of homelessness, is to take a look and say, let me give you the following example. Let's say that you're a family of 4. Mama and Papa are each working a couple of jobs that are low-income jobs. They lose one of those jobs. They're 30 days to 45 days, they're on the street in the car with a family of 4. What is the cost to you as the public, to us as the government, if that situation occurs, which it does repeatedly, and now we're trying to lift that family out of homelessness, rather than saying, here's a check for that job you lost, that 1 out of the 4 jobs. Use this for 30 days to pay your rent and go get that 4th job back somehow. That prevention side is critical to our success. So if you are a business person and you are looking at the city of Santa Cruz, I think you can fairly conclude it's a safe community, the trend lines are in the right direction, on housing affordability, on homelessness, but also on the condition of the city's fiscal affairs. The federal government gets to print money. State government and local government doesn't get to do that. We are obligated to have balanced budgets. We cannot deficit spend. So if we are going to have balanced budgets that meet the needs of the community across the board, how do we do that? One of the ways we've done that in the city of Santa Cruz is to be very careful about where we invest our funds in the public sector. How do we allocate the budget? The other thing is to go to the voters and say, we've got an idea here. If we can keep the income and expense lines from crossing, we are going to be much better as a city to be able to respond to the kinds of needs that entrepreneurs have when they look at our city and say, is this the place we want to be? So the voters of the city of Santa Cruz 2 years ago agreed that they would raise their sales tax. They agreed to this, to raise their sales tax so that going forward for the next 7 years, we know those lines won't cross. Secondly, in that regard, we negotiated 3-year contracts with all of our 7 bargaining units. So what? What that does when you combine those two is provides predictability. You were kind enough to send me to the legislature where I was Speaker Pro Tem under a number of speakers during the time I was there. One of the lessons I learned there is that there's 2 things. There's lots of things business wants, and it's all sector driven and so on. But the uniformity across all businesses in going to Sacramento and talking to legislators, what do they want? 2 things: deductibility and predictability. Those are the 2 things business want. They want the legislature to give them tax breaks, but more importantly, they want stability. They want the ability to predict and not have to say, we're going quarter to quarter to quarter, and this city is limping along, limping along, limping along. So the message I have to deliver to you on behalf of my colleagues and on behalf of the 500 people who work for you as employees of the city of Santa Cruz is this: we thank you for trusting and being willing to invest in the city of Santa Cruz. And Doug, I've got less than a minute here, but I'm going to use this less than a minute. I want to close with this concept. I'm going to hearken back to what I was watching on TV, what I was feeling as opposed to what was I thinking, what was I feeling. What I was feeling is that we are an incredibly fortunate country. I always love my country. I am also deeply skeptical all the time of all of my government. That's a good thing to be. And the reason I am is this. In one of our critical founding documents, it says that the purpose, what are we managing towards, is a more perfect union. We are an imperfect activity because we're a human activity, but we are managing towards every day a more perfect union. How do we measure that? Is then the second part of this, which is that we are the only country in the world that ends its national anthem with a question. Does that Star-Spangled Banner still wave over the land of the free and the home of the brave? Put those together. We are aspiring to be a more perfect union, and every day, every time we sing that, every time we hear that, we ask ourselves the question, how are we doing? And my sense is, in the city of Santa Cruz, with your courage on investments, we are doing well. God bless you and thank you.